In today's episode, the Volkswagen Beetle. Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel. The channel that brings you car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 1990s. Very niche subject, but if you're interested in cars, if you're interested in car brochures, if you're interested in bringing back those memories that these wonderful cars bring back, then please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free, and as far as I know, always will be, unless eBay, I was going to say, unless YouTube changes something drastically, but you'll be the first to know if that ever happens. But I don't think it will ever do. I'm wittering. Let's get on with the show. We're going to look at the Volkswagen Beetle today. So let's turn the camera around and have a look at this lovely brochure. So here it is, lovely front cover actually, with this front end of this black Volkswagen Beetle, and it says at the bottom there, why is a Volkswagen like no other car on the road? And it will go into why not, things like it's an air-cooled engine. I'm calling it the Volkswagen Beetle, although this time really it was never named the Volkswagen Beetle, was it? I'm going to flip the brochure around the other way. At the bottom here, there's an interesting dealer stamp. Holbert's Garages Inc. 1410 Eastern Highway, Route 611, Warrington, PA, which I presume PA is referring to Pennsylvania, I would imagine. So a US brochure, this one. And then just quickly turning back again. So this is actually quite a recent eBay purchase, actually. And I don't usually buy Volkswagen Beetle brochures, usually because, well, anything Beetle or air-cooled related, collectors just go crazy for them. Whether you talk about the cars, the parts, or even the brochures, there's so many collectors there that the prices go crazy, far more than really what they're worth. But luckily enough, I found this one on eBay. I think it was posted in the wrong category, and it was also as an auction with a very low starting rate. I just threw a bid on the starting price, thinking I wouldn't get it, and then a week later I discovered I bought it because there was no other bidders. So probably what I paid, a few dollars for it, it's probably worth 20 times that in reality. And I guess that's a key for anyone who's selling car brochures. A lot of people do sell on eBay, but beware, don't do it as an auction. Just think of the price, research how much it's worth, stick that price on there. It may take anywhere up to a year to actually sell it, but you will eventually realise that price because there is collectors out there. It's just that there isn't thousands and thousands and desperately looking for brochures, just a handful of collectors who are still purchasing these. I'm going off track really, but for those brochure collectors there, just a little bit of a tip. So yeah, I did purchase this one. It was from a seller in the US and quite a nice brochure. The problem with this brochure, and I was kind of like toying over whether to do this one today, the problem with this brochure is vast. It's very wordy, so some of the pages we might not read it word for word, we might just summarise what it's going on about. Some of the pages we will read it all, but we can't read it cover to cover because it's too big and too wordy. But we better get on with it. Let's turn to the first page. So here we are on the first page. Now I don't think anywhere on this brochure actually tells me the date of the brochure, sadly. So I'm just going to say early 60s. Beetle and Volkswagen and air-cooled collectors are crazy knowledgeable. I'm sure they'd be able to give me the exact dates of this particular Volkswagen. Unfortunately, I don't have that greater knowledge of Volkswagen Beetle, so I'm just going to say early 60s. When they looked absolutely fantastic, didn't they? Or maybe even late 50s? I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure somebody will be able to tell me that. But what a great first image. What a wonderful car this looks in this first image, in this beautiful colour. I'm not going to zoom into it straight away, actually. So here it is. Love the wheels, actually. Obviously, white wall tyres look amazing on this. And we got the wheel hubcaps, I guess, and then the wheel itself Looks to have some amount of body colour in there as well, and then we've got these sloping front lights. And like I say, I don't have enough Beetle knowledge to pinpoint this to an exact year. All I know is split rear screens went to about 53-ish, and then they had the oval rear screen which went to around about 57. So this is obviously after that, when they went to that larger rear window. Other than that, I can't really pinpoint a year, but it's going to be down to things like these rear lights. I'm sure will help those in the know tell me what year this particular Beetle or Volkswagen is. I love the little picture of the family actually. Obviously the days before safety, they're obviously not wearing seat belts, but I guess that's all the time period it is. And of course I have to point out what the show is named after. A beautiful quarter light. If you're from another country, you won't call them a quarter light, you probably call it a vent window, but in the UK, that is what a quarter light looks like. Anyway, we should move on. We've got a lot to get through. I'm going to read this introduction at least. So it starts by telling us the first thing that distinguishes the Volkswagen from any other car on the road is its shape. Everyone recognises it. If you drove a Volkswagen around the world, you'll find your car well known wherever you went. Obviously the same story today. Owning a Volkswagen makes you a member of an international driving fraternity, over 4 million strong. Now a quick browse on the internet tells me they sold 4 million in 1959, possibly very early 60s this brochure. All enthusiasts. The unique Volkswagen was created with a stubborn singleness of purpose, the production of an honest, functional car. Therefore, there is a reason for the shape of every Volkswagen part. Indeed, for the shape of the car itself. For example, all three models of the Volkswagen, so there's a deluxe, sedan, convertible, and sedan with sunroof, are designed to reduce wind resistance and cut fuel consumption. Even the underside of the car is a smooth sheet of steel. More of Volkswagen's patient attention to detail is unfolded on the reverse of this flap, which we'll have a look at in a moment. It continues to tell you you can depend on your Volkswagen to take you around town or around the world. Economically efficient, its timeless style. The Volkswagen is designed to last, not to become obsolete. Actually, the Volkswagen changes continually through each year. But these are not changes you merely see. Volkswagen changes its car only to make it better. Its heart and face remain the same. For this reason, the Volkswagen is one of the most gratifying cars you can own. And for this reason also, used Volkswagens have remarkable resale value. A Volkswagen depreciates less than any other imported car. The Volkswagen is a first car and a second car, depending on what you want. It's a city car and a country car, depending on what you need. Above all, a Volkswagen is a car you will love to drive. It restores a sense of personal control and pleasure that is almost lost in this push-button era. So even in this 60s brochure, we're still complaining about, the modern times and the new technology coming in. Really a reminder, no matter what decade you live in, you're reminiscing about the previous decade or two. But yeah, what a wonderful car. Like it says in there, very low depreciation on these cars at this time from new, and then they went more and more crazy and more collectible. Obviously a really nice one of these today would be worth more than I can afford. So I always think with these Beetles, the time to buy these Beetles were when they were brand new. That was the best and most affordable time to buy these. And I wish, if it went back to this time, I would walk up to the showroom and buy one tomorrow, because I do love Beetles. I owned a Volkswagen Beetle. It was actually a 69 Volkswagen Beetle when I was very young. I loved it. The only thing I didn't like about it, actually, it was, and you always see this with Volkswagens, it was a certain amount of customization on it. Someone had cut the suspension, and it was, dragging its floor around so much she couldn't even get over speed humps. So I've always really wanted a completely stock standard Beetle for that reason, I think. Who knows, maybe one day, I don't know. Anyway, so it says open the flap, and you can open the flap. And rather nicely when you open the flap, this standard Beetle turns into a convertible, which is rather lovely. What a wonderful convertible that is. And it also shows the other model, the sunroof model, on that picture as well. We're going to finish off reading this. We'll come back to the images and then we'll see what else this brochure has to offer. It tells us Volkswagen's precision comes as a revelation to people who are accustomed to other cars. The excellence of its workmanship is striking. You can see it in the way Volkswagen is put together, tightly, solidly. Every part, down to the smallest components, is tested for accuracy and fit, an impossible luxury in most mass-produced cars. And of course, this is a time when Germany produced very well-built cars. I wonder what really happened to them. They seem to have gone downhill from around about the 90s, I think. Anyway, it stems from a tradition of craftsmanship severe enough to reject a car because of scratches barely visible to the naked eye. A tradition foreign enough not only to spray each car 3 times with enamel, but to submerge it in paint before it is sprayed, building up a coat of surface you never see and acting as a shield against corrosion. More than 3,500 Volkswagen workmen have only one job: to inspect Volkswagens at each production stage. As a result, the Volkswagen is made with such close tolerances that it's airtight. We are told it will even float on water. Amazing. What an amazing job as well. I'd love to be in one of them 3,500 Volkswagen workmen who just went round and said, nope, that's not good enough. The extent of Volkswagen craftsmanship is reflected in the special features of the 3 Volkswagen models. The top of the Volkswagen convertible, for example, is like no other. Put it up and it overlaps the windshield frame to form a weatherproof airtight seal. The convertible top is unusual in other ways. It has a safety glass rear window that will not scuff or fog. It is lined with and padded so that no struts or crossbars show. The lining acts as a heat and sound insulator too. The patter of rain is almost inaudible. You have to look out the window to see what the weather is doing. The Volkswagen sedan with sunroof is identical with Volkswagen's deluxe sedan except for its slide back top, which adjusts easily even while you are driving. It allows you to control your own weather in a steel-topped car. You get just the amount of sun and breeze you want, or none. And there we go, the images. This last part we've already read when we looked at the first page, of course. So beautiful. We've got the convertible and the sedan. And I guess one quick note, if you don't mind me talking about brochures for a second. The cost of producing such a big brochure for what was an economy car is quite striking, isn't it? I always remember when they started phasing car brochures out and the salesman said, oh no, we don't do car brochures anymore. It's all on the internet. You know, we're thinking things environmentally now, where of course it was all nonsense really. They're just saving money, because certainly there was a cost involved in creating these huge car brochures. Everything today, we're nickel and diming every tiny detail. For example, we don't even throw a spare wheel in there anymore. So interesting how things have changed, and you know, and I guess that's why quality of cars has gone down a bit, because we are really trying to save every penny. Anyway, let's zoom in on that convertible. What a lovely colour to start with. And again, another reminder, small child about to fall out the car, we don't care. No need to seatbelt them in, certainly a different time. And then we can also see how that convertible hood is stored in the rear. I'm sure that car would be worth quite a bit of money today if you owned one of those early convertibles. It really does look rather amazing, and like I say, really rather wonderful colour. And then the one at the back, again, some random kid poking out the sunroof to wave into the friend, you know. We don't care. Don't worry about seatbelts. And then an interesting colour, actually. It looks quite a modern colour, that, doesn't it? This sort of very dark blue. Anyway, we must move on. So this is where we have to start really reading it word for word, because every page has got this much text on it. Really, to summarise what it's saying here, it's going on about, you know, it being a air-cooled engine, therefore it can outperform any other conventional car, not worrying about extremes of heat, extremes of cold. Although I must admit, when I had a Volkswagen Beetle, it was forever overheating, and that was in the UK, but I guess that was just because it was an old banger. But anyway, let's move on. And then we turn the page and we've got the opposite extreme, so snowy. Certainly a scene we'll be seeing in Canada very shortly. Now we're into November. Amazed we haven't had any snow so far, actually, but anyway. Yeah, so the opposite extreme, cold and snowy. I will just read the top of this, actually, because it is quite interesting. It tells us the Volkswagen behaves superbly under driving conditions that keep other cars off the road. Unlike conventional cars, the Volkswagen engine is in the back, giving the rear wheels superior traction. As a result, the Volkswagen can climb steep, slippery hills with ease. You can drive with aplomb through mud, sand, ice and snow where other cars skid. You go, and Volkswagen's rear engine gives you the most efficient, economical use of the power you have because there is no long drive shaft, etc, etc. So yeah, it's interesting. I've certainly seen videos of Beetles doing extremely well in snowy, slippery, muddy conditions, actually. And the next page is also talking about the size. You know, it's great to slip in and out of busy traffic conditions, easy to park. And one interesting thing about this brochure is very often with newer brochures than this, it's just a stock image where it will say something like in small print, you know, specifications can differ depending on your market, and it'll have a picture that isn't even from your country. But obviously they've gone to the expense because the US is a big market. I've actually taken all the pictures, taken the correct car, the US spec Volkswagen Beetles in the country, and we've got a couple of huge American land yachts there that it's parking in. And certainly in the 60s it would have looked like a very tiny little car compared to those huge cars, but they certainly did sell a lot of them in the US. And then we've got this lovely image in the centre pages. I must admit, I'd love some of these. I wouldn't take this brochure apart, of course, but I would love some of these pictures as sort of like posters on the walls, really. They're really lovely, lovely images. We can see a couple of the, well, 3 different colour choices there, all talking about servicing. Obviously, it's the Volkswagen service department. So let's actually read this particular page. It tells us service is no problem to Volkswagen owners. You'll find excellent facilities at the authorised Volkswagen dealers in all 50 states. Canada, coast to coast, in Mexico and 118 other countries too. A Volkswagen is serviced only by factory trained technicians, schooled to Volkswagen's demanding standards. Only Volkswagen approved tools and equipment are used. Costs are low, service is fast. Authorised Volkswagen dealers keep a complete inventory of genuine Volkswagen spare parts on hand at all times. There is no wait, no substitution. The Volkswagen was designed to hold up. It will probably be a very long time before your Volkswagen requires anything but routine maintenance. Naturally, you can expect the service you get to be as precise and efficient as the car itself. And yeah, certainly an easy car to work on, so I'm sure it was a great place to work at these dealer services, and mechanics just trained on these cars must have been a relatively easy job, actually, which of course means the car is in less time, therefore, you know, it's going to be cheaper to actually repair or maintain, which is something obviously the first buyer are certainly going to look at, aren't they? I mean, Volkswagen owners will know it's probably one of the easiest cars to actually just completely change the engine in. I've seen it done in very, very quick times. Anyway, let's move on. Then we get this lovely image of the vehicle without the shell. I'm sure a lot of people have seen this who've ever restored a Volkswagen. And the great thing, if you are restoring a Volkswagen, even today, you can pretty much get all the parts for them. But yeah, very simply made, and the home mechanic is something that they can do themselves. Very interesting layout. A bit more mechanical details at the bottom here, so I think we will read this. It tells us Volkswagen's rugged body and platform chassis are joined to create a single twist-proof unit. The steel tunnel in the centre of the smooth underbody forms the backbone of the car. It also protects the gas line and the rods and cables for the gear shift, clutch, throttle, brakes and heater. Even the jack socket is a rigid part of the Volkswagen chassis. It makes changing times faster and safer because it eliminates the need for a risky bumper jack. Before spraying, the body and the chassis are plunged into tanks of paint, bathed in it to protect the Volkswagen from rust and corrosion. No bare metal is left exposed. Even if you were to remove all the trim and upholstery from a Volkswagen, you would find the car completely painted inside and out. Volkswagen owners park outdoors in any weather, confident that the Volkswagen's unseen finish is as well engineered as every moving part. Your new Volkswagen comes equipped with a fully synchromesh 4-speed transmission, one of the smoothest in the world, with first gear synchronized, a feature seldom found except in expensive sedans and sports cars. You can more flexibly and better control. Without it, the car must be brought to a complete stop before first gear can be properly engaged. The new Volkswagen lets you shift into first gear while the car is moving, an important advantage in stop and go traffic. All shifts in the Volkswagen are quick and easy. There is no clashing or grinding of gears, and the Volkswagen's gear ratio ensure maximum performance and economy. The Volkswagen's fourth gear, for example, is actually an overdrive. At highway speeds, the Volkswagen engine loafs economically at one of the lowest gear ratios of any car on the road. And then we see the engine itself, the air-cooled unit. And one interesting thing about this brochure, actually, being a very early 60s brochure, normally at this time period we're seeing all drone images, particularly for the cars in the UK. Obviously, they've gone to the expense of taking photos, good quality colour photos, on what is, again, an economy car. Now, the text tells us the Volkswagen's air-cooled aluminium magnesium engine is a model of efficiency and precision. It is a 4-cylinder, 4-cycle overhead valve power plant with 2 pairs of horizontally opposed cylinders. Because the cylinders lie flat, the Volkswagen engine has a low centre of gravity and makes the most efficient use of its compact space. Since it is a short stroke engine, it has unusually low piston speeds and short piston travel per mile. This means low friction, long wear and remarkably endurance on the highway. A single throat downdraft carburetor with a booster pump gives you astonishing acceleration when you need it, yet keeps fuel consumption low, and since the Volkswagen's air cooler constantly controls the temperature of the oil, it always maintains the proper viscosity. Every moving part of the Volkswagen engine is lubricated and cooled by circulating oil. In keeping with the efficient design of the Volkswagen, its engine, transmission and differential form a compact, accessible unit. Volkswagen engines are constructed individually and by hand. Automotive engineers visiting the highly automated Volkswagen plant in Wolfsburg come away flabbergasted at the hours spent at hand assembly. and almost as much time is devoted to inspecting engines as to assembling them. Senior Volkswagen craftsmen inspect each engine at every assembly stage, then examine it again after it's completed. And as finished Volkswagens come off the line, each car is driven to a test stand where the engines are instrument checked at all speeds. Before the last inspector initials the windscreen, every car is subjected to a final overall scrutiny. Only perfect Volkswagens survive. As a consequence, no one knows how long a Volkswagen lasts. The first Volkswagens made have not worn out. Another interesting image here talking about the Volkswagen suspension system using torsion bars to provide independent springing for all four wheels, a feature commonly reserved for expensive sports and racing cars. In front, the Volkswagen's wheels are suspended by two tempered steel torsion bars, each with 8 laminated leaves. The rear wheels are independently sprung through round solid steel torsion bars. In cars with leaf or coil springs, there is a fixed limit to the suspension springing power. A severe jolt frequently makes the car hit bottom. The Volkswagen's torsion bars, however, flex and rebound instantly, readying the Volkswagen for each successful bump. Well, then there's this rather lovely little diagram of the space inside the Volkswagen. So here we see at the front, obviously, engine at the back means, in reality, trunk or boot space is very much restricted on a Beetle, which is obviously a bit of a drawback of rear engine cars. We can see here how much space we got in that front compartment. More modern wording, I guess we'd probably call this a frunk these days, but yeah, not much room in the front of the Volkswagen, but overall they have tried the best they possibly can. So two suitcases in the front and a bag by the looks of it, and it looks like they've squeezed two very thin suitcases behind that rear seat to accommodate everybody in there. And then right at the very back page here is all the technical specifications, certainly written out differently than most manufacturers will do, but we'll certainly look through these. Starts by telling us the engine type is a 4-cylinder, 4-stroke rear engine. Cylinder arrangement, 2 pairs horizontally opposed. Valves, overhead type. Bore, 3.03 inches, stroke 2.52 inches, displacement 72.74 cubic inches, compression ratio 7.0, maximum SAE brake horsepower 40 at 3900 RPM, piston speed 1512 foot min at 3600 RPM, engine weight 182 pounds, lubrication pressure, lubrication gear type pump with oil cooler, oil capacity 5.3 US pints, fuel pump, diaphragm type, mechanically operated. Carburetor, Solex downdraft carburetor 28 PICT, and automatic choke with accelerator pump, air cleaner, oil bath type, cooling system, air cooled by fan, automatically controlled by thermostat, battery 6 volts, so just a 6 volt battery at this time, 66 amp hour, starter solenoid type, generator 180 watts with voltage control, muffler dual exhaust, clutch single disc dry, standard equipment, Saxo mat automatic clutch optional. Transmission 4 forward speeds, 1 reverse, controlled synchromesh on all forward gears. Tells you the gear ratios. Final drive, power transmitted through spiral bevel gear, 2-pinion bevel differential gear, and swing axle shafts to rear wheels. It tells you the gear ratio, oil capacity of transmission and final drive, 6.3 US pints, refill quantity, 5.3 US pints, chassis, frame, tubular centre section, forked at rear and welded on platform, front axle, independent suspension on both wheels, through equal upper and lower trailing arms. 2 transverse torsion bars protected in tubes, anti-sway bar, rear axle, independent suspension of wheels through swing axle shafts with trailing arms, 1 torsion bar on each side, mounted and protected in transverse tube. Shock absorbers, front and rear, double acting hydraulic telescopic type, steering special worm type gear and divided tie rod, hydraulic steering damper, 2.4 turns of steering wheel from lock to lock, turning circle approximately 36 feet, tyres 5.6 or to 15 tubeless, wheels disc type with drop centre rim, 4J by 15, brakes, hydraulic foot brake, Lockheed, operating on 4 wheels, mechanical handbrake operating on rear wheels, wheelbase 94.5 inches, track front 51.4 inches, rear 50.7 inches, fuel tank capacity 10.6 US gallons, including 1.3 US gallon reserve. Overall dimensions, length 160.6 inches, width 60.6 inches, height 59.1 inches. We then have the weights in pounds for both the sedan and convertible. Gross weight of the sedan 2469 pounds and then 2557 for the convertible. So certainly the convertible is the heavier one with all the extra strengthening, no doubt. Performance rather, fuel consumption 30 miles per US gallon, 36 miles per imperial gallon at half payload at a steady 3/4 of top speed on level roads. Rather nice, isn't it, that they're actually showing, rather than just, giving us a figure, it's actually telling you what that figure is based on. Half payload at a steady 3/4 of top speed. Interesting. Maximum and cruising speed 72. So telling us the maximum speed of this car is 72, but also that's the cruising speed. So it's quite happy to do that speed. Interesting figures there for the climbing ability. Showing the sedan is far better, I guess, because the convertible is heavier. Interesting figures. Then it talks about the optional accessories. So optionally we can have a radio and antenna. Side rear view mirror and white wall tyres are available at extra costs. While I'm here, I might as well show you that little brochure number there printed in Germany. It doesn't appear to be a number that gives us the date of the brochure though, sadly. There is a dealer stamp like we saw at the start of the show. The actual where these Volkswagens have come from, Wolfsburg in Germany. And at the bottom there it says, the specifications described in this brochure are subject to change without notice. Latest paint colours and interior appointments may be seen at your authorised Volkswagen dealer. So there we go, the wonderful Volkswagen Beetle from the late 50s, early 60s. What a wonderful car. One thing I always note when I look through these brochures, I always think, if you could do it now, I would always love to buy a brand new one of these air-conditioned Volkswagens, just walk into the dealer and buy one, because it would have been a great buy. Very low depreciation. I guess if you looked after them well enough, it would probably last the rest of your life. What great, cheap, I think is the key, a cheap economical car. Obviously, the prices then just went silly and they became unaffordable for what they really were. I guess that cute look to them really threw prices up and up, and the fact that they're relatively easy to work on. But thank you so much for watching the show today. We'll end as we usually do by saying, so thank you for watching. Please do consider subscribing. It always will be free to be a subscriber. Keeps you in touch with the channel. And you can also watch over 800 episodes of Quarterlight. I'm sure there are cars that you're interested in. There is another Volkswagen Urkel brochure in the back catalogue as well, I seem to remember. Maybe I'll try and add a link to this over here somewhere if you are interested in Volkswagens, and maybe I'll do a bit of a collection of Volkswagen stuff in the 70s, there as well. But like I say, thank you so much for watching today. I'm glad you've had time to watch the program. Always very much appreciated. Don't forget to give a thumbs up. We do always appreciate you watching these shows. The regulars, thank you so much. You really keep us going. But please do take care. We'll see you again very soon. All the best and goodbye.